Welcome back to the channel. Tonight, I've got something unsettling to share. A tale I came across recently that's been lingering in my mind. I don't know who wrote it or where it came from. It showed up in my inbox one night. No sender, no subject line. It's written like someone needed to get it off their chest, and honestly, I'm not sure what to make of it. It feels too real to dismiss, but too strange to explain. I'll let you hear it for yourself and decide what you think. Here's what they wrote. It started a month ago, though I can't pinpoint the exact day. Time's gotten fuzzy since then, like my memories fraying at the edges. I live alone in a small apartment. Second floor, corner unit, nothing fancy. It's one of those old buildings where the walls creak and the heat rattles the pipes, but it's quiet enough. At least it was. The first note came on a Tuesday. I'd just gotten home from work, night shift at a warehouse, unloading trucks until my hands ache, and I was dead tired. I kicked off my boots by the door, same as always, and there it was. A scrap of paper on the welcome mat, folded in half. I figured it was junk, maybe a flyer from the landlord about pest control or something, but when I picked it up, it wasn't printed. It was handwritten. The ink was black, smudged in places like it had been written in a hurry. The handwriting was shaky, all sharp angles and uneven loops, like a kid's scrawl, but worse. It said, "You left the light on in the kitchen again." I froze. My kitchen light was on. I could see it glowing down the hall, but I lived alone. No roommates, no girlfriend, no one who'd know that. I checked the door. Locked, deadbolt in place. The mat was on the inside, so someone would have had to get in to leave it there. I told myself it was a prank. Maybe the neighbor's kid messing around, but it didn't sit right. I crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash, double-checked the locks, and went to bed. Didn't sleep much. The next night, there was another one. Same spot, same folded paper, same shaky handwriting. This time it read, "You ate cereal at 2:17 a.m. My stomach dropped. I had eaten cereal the night before, after tossing and turning for hours. I'd stood in the kitchen in my boxers, spooning soggy flakes into my mouth, staring at the clock on the microwave. 2:17 a.m. Exactly. I hadn't told anyone, not a soul. No one could have seen me. The blinds were shut tight. I tore the apartment apart that night. Checked the closets, under the bed, even the damn vents. Nothing. No cameras, no signs anyone had been inside. The door was still locked when I got home, same as the windows. I started wondering if I'd written it myself, like some sleepwalking thing, but my handwriting's blocky and neat. This was a mess. I threw that note out too, but I didn't sleep at all. They kept coming. Every night, a new one slipped under my door while I was at work. Always on the mat when I got back, always folded, always that same jagged scrawl. They got more specific, more personal. "You hummed that song from the radio today, the one about the river." I had some old tune stuck in my head from a delivery truck's stereo. "You scratched your left arm 3 times while you showered." True, again, a nervous habit I didn't even think about. Each one was small, mundane, but dead on, like someone was cataloging my life, moment by moment. I stopped throwing them away after a week, started keeping them in a shoebox under my bed, though I don't know why. Maybe I thought I'd figure something out, spot a pattern. There were dozens by then, all written on the same cheap, yellowed paper, like it had been torn from an old notebook. The edges were rough. Some still had bits of spiral binding clinging to them. I'd stare at them for hours, trying to make sense of it. But the more I read, the worse it got. My hands would shake, my chest would tighten, and I'd feel this cold weight settle in my gut, like something was watching me do it. I couldn't tell anyone. What would I say? "Hey, someone's leaving creepy notes about my life, but there's no proof they're getting in." My coworkers would think I was losing it, and my family's halfway across the country. They'd just worry. I thought about cameras, but I barely scraped by on my paycheck. I couldn't afford some fancy setup. Besides, what if I caught nothing? Or worse, what if I did? 2 weeks in, the notes changed. They weren't just about what I'd done anymore. They started predicting things. One said, "You'll trip over the rug tonight." I laughed it off, until I caught my toe on the frayed edge of the living room rug an hour later, sprawling face first into the coffee table. Another read, "You'll burn your toast tomorrow." Next morning, I forgot the bread in the toaster, and it came out black and smoking. Every time, it was spot on. Little things, stupid things, but they piled up until I couldn't breathe right. I started testing it. One night, a note said, "You'll leave the TV on mute." I left it off instead, sat in silence all night just to prove it wrong. The next note said, "You thought you could trick me." My blood went cold. I tried again a few days later. Note said I'd wear my gray hoodie, so I wore the blue one. Next note, "Blue doesn't suit you." It knew. It always knew. By week 3, I was a wreck, barely sleeping, jumping at every sound. I'd stopped showering regular, stopped eating much, just pacing the apartment, waiting for the next one. The notes were longer now, more detailed. One described how I'd sat on the couch for an hour, staring at the wall, counting my breaths to calm down. It even mentioned the exact number, 47 breaths. Another said I'd cried in the bathroom with the lights off. I had, though I'd never admit it out loud. It was like it wasn't just watching, it was inside my head. Last Thursday, I hit my breaking point. The note that night was different. Shorter, but heavier somehow. It said, "You'll find me soon." No details, no little observation, just that. I lost it. Tore the place apart again, screaming at the walls, begging whatever it was to show itself. Nothing answered. Just the hum of the fridge and the drip of the faucet. I didn't sleep, didn't eat, just sat by the door with a kitchen knife, waiting. Friday's note was blank, first time in weeks, just an empty scrap, folded like the rest. I don't know why, but that scared me more than anything. I stayed up again, knife in hand, eyes on the door. Saturdays was blank too, then Sundays. 3 days of nothing, and I started thinking maybe it was over. Maybe I'd scared it off, or it got bored. I almost believed it. Last night, I came home late. Truck broke down at work, so I didn't get in till after midnight. The mat was empty. I let out this shaky laugh, like I'd won. Went to bed for the first time in days, actually slept a little. Woke up this morning to a noise, like a rustle, paper on wood. Rolled over, groggy, and there it was. A note on my nightstand, inches from my face. Not under the door, in my room. Same yellowed paper, same shaky scrawl. It said, "I watched you sleep." I haven't left the apartment since. Haven't opened the door, haven't looked outside. The shoebox is still under the bed, stuffed with every note but this one. I keep it in my pocket now, folded tight. Like if I let it go, something worse will happen. I hear things sometimes, soft scratches, a creak that's not the pipes, but I don't look. I can't. It's here, whatever it is. It's been here all along. I don't know what it wants. I don't know how it knows me. But it's close now, closer than it's ever been. And I'm terrified that the next note won't be a note at all. That's where the first tale cuts off, just a man, a room, and something too close to name. I sat with that one for a while, turning it over, wondering what I'd do if those notes started showing up here. But before I could shake it off, another story landed in my lap, and it's got the same chill running through it. Not the same place, not the same person, but the same weight. Like something's pressing in, watching from the edges. This next one's different. No paper scraps, no handwriting. But it's just as quiet, just as wrong. I've always lived in quiet places. Small towns, back roads, houses with more trees than neighbors. It suits me. I don't like crowds, don't like noise. When I moved into this place last fall, it was perfect. A little rental cabin, maybe 20 minutes from the nearest gas station, surrounded by pines so thick you can't see the road. The landlord said it had been empty for years, but it was clean enough. Wood floors, a stone fireplace, 1 bedroom, 1 bath. No Wi-Fi, no cell signal, unless I drove a mile out, but I didn't mind. I brought an old radio for company, the kind with a dial and a long antenna. That's where it started. The first night, I unpacked my stuff, clothes, a few books, some canned food, and plugged in the radio. It's a habit from growing up. I like the hum of voices or music while I settle in. I turned the dial, expecting static since I was so far out, but I caught a station right away. Some late-night talk show, a guy with a gravelly voice going on about fishing spots. It was faint, crackling at the edges, but clear enough. I left it on low and fell asleep to it. Woke up around 3 a.m. to a different sound. Not the talk show, just static, loud and hissing, like the station had cut out. But under it, there was something else. A voice, maybe, or a tone. Low and steady, weaving through the noise. I sat up, groggy, and listened. It wasn't words, not exactly. Just this drawn-out hum, like someone holding a note too long. I turned the dial a little, thinking I'd lost the signal, but it stayed. Same hum, same pitch, no matter where I set it. I switched the radio off and it stopped. Figured it was interference or my half-asleep brain playing tricks. Went back to bed. Next night, it happened again. Radio on, some old country song this time, faint but fine. Fell asleep, woke up to static and that hum. Louder now, clearer. It wasn't just a tone anymore. It had a rhythm, like breathing, slow and deliberate. In, out, in, out. I lay there, eyes on the ceiling, counting it. 10 breaths, 20, 30. It didn't stop. I got up, turned the radio off, and it cut out instantly. Checked the plug, the antenna, nothing weird. The cabin was silent again, just the wind outside. I told myself it was nothing, but I didn't turn it back on. By the third night, I couldn't ignore it. I'd left the radio off all day, didn't touch it. Went to bed early, exhausted from hauling firewood. Woke up at 2:47 a.m. I remember the clock, because the static was back. The radio was on. I hadn't touched it, hadn't even bumped it. But there it was, hissing from the corner of the room. And the hum was there too, louder, closer, like it was coming from the speaker itself. It wasn't just breathing now. It had this wet edge, like a rasp, like something trying to form words, but failing. I yanked the plug from the wall, and it died. Sat there in the dark, heart pounding, waiting for it to start again. It didn't. I should have left then, should have packed my stuff and driven out at dawn. But I'd signed a 6-month lease, put down my last paycheck as deposit. I couldn't just go. And it was just a radio, right? Old wiring, maybe, or some glitch. I moved it to the closet that morning, shut the door, and spent the day outside splitting logs. Kept busy, kept my mind off it. That night, I went to bed with the lights on. No radio, no sound. Woke up to silence. Thought it was over. It wasn't. Fourth night, I woke up choking. Not like a dream, real choking, like my throat was full of dust. Sat up gasping, and the static hit me. It was coming from the closet, loud enough to rattle the door. The radio was unplugged, stuffed behind boxes, but it was on. And the hum, it wasn't a hum anymore. It was a voice, low and garbled, pushing through the noise. I couldn't make out words, but it had intent, like it was saying something over and over. I stumbled to the closet, threw the door open, and ripped the radio out. Smashed it on the floor, cracked the case, bent the antenna, tore the dials off. The static stopped. The voice stopped. I swept the pieces into a trash bag and buried it out back, under a pile of dirt and rocks. Slept on the couch that night, knife under the pillow. For a week, it was quiet. No static, no hum, no nothing. I started thinking I'd overreacted. Maybe I'd imagined it, or the radio had been picking up some weird signal from God knows where. I even laughed about it, told myself I'd spooked myself silly over nothing. Bought a cheap battery-powered clock radio from the gas station to replace it. Figured I'd test my luck. First night with the new one, I tuned it to a weather report, kept the volume low. Fell asleep easy. Woke up to static. Clock said 3:13 a.m. The weather report was gone, just that same hissing wall of noise. And the voice was back, clearer now, closer. It wasn't in the static. It was over it, cutting through like a blade. Still no words I could catch, but the tone was different. Angry, insistent, like it was demanding something. I turned the radio off, pulled the batteries, and threw it under the bed. Lay there, staring at the dark, waiting. 5 minutes later I heard it again. Not from the radio, from the walls. A low, rasping murmur seeping through the wood, circling the room. I clapped my hands over my ears, but it didn't help. It was inside my head, vibrating in my skull. I don't sleep much anymore. Every night it's there. Doesn't matter if I smash the radios, burn them, bury them, it comes back. Sometimes it's the static first, creeping in like fog, then the voice. Sometimes it's just the voice, raw and unfiltered, whispering from the corners. I've tried leaving the cabin lights on, staying awake, driving out to the gas station, and sitting in my truck till dawn. Doesn't matter. It follows. Last night I parked 5 miles out, windows up, doors locked. Fell asleep in the driver's seat. Woke up to the voice, right beside me, like it was in the passenger seat, breathing in my ear. It's not just noise now, it's shaping itself. Last week I caught a word, or thought I did. Sounded like stay, hissed out slow and wet. 2 nights ago, it was here, sharp and clipped. Tonight, as I'm writing this, it's louder, closer. I can hear it over my own breathing, over the scratch of the pen. It's saying my name. Not the radio, not the walls, just the air, thick with it. Daniel. Over and over. Daniel. I don't know how it knows. I never said it out loud, never told it anything. I can't leave. Tried yesterday, packed a bag, got in the truck, made it halfway down the dirt road. The static hit like a wave, flooded the cab, and the voice screamed. First time it screamed. I swerved, nearly hit a tree, and turned back. It stopped when I pulled into the driveway. I think it wants me here. I think it's always wanted me here. The cabin's the same as when I moved in. No marks, no signs, nothing broken but the radios I've trashed. I've checked every inch. Crawl space, attic, under the floorboards. Nothing. Just me and the sound. I don't know what it is. Don't know if it's a person, a thing, or just my head cracking open. But it's real. I feel it in my bones, in the way the air gets heavy when it starts. It's watching me write this, I know it. The pen's shaking, but I have to finish. Someone's got to know. I'm not asking for help. I don't think there's any to give, just don't come looking. If you hear static out there in the quiet places, turn it off. Don't listen. It's not what you think. That's it for tonight. If these stories hit you, drop a comment and tell me. Did they get under your skin? Hit the like if you felt it, and subscribe for more. Turn on notifications too. The next one's coming. Until then, sleep light.